Good morning, Mr. Poston.
Good morning, Your Honor. Good morning, Judge Monroe.
Good morning, Your Honor. This is the Pima County Jail. How are you?
Are we about ready?
Oh, we are ready, ma'am. I'm going to start with Mr. Enriquez, and I do believe the court has been advised that we have a couple that are at hospitals.
Yes.
Sounds good. Let me get Mr. Enriquez first.
Thank you.
Forgive me, Your Honor. Which ones are in? Which ones are no-go today?
Sis number 20 and Gonzalez number 3. Those are the two that
Thank
are
you.
out.
20 and 3. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes. Okay. I just didn't know what the interims. Okay. Good morning. Tell me your name. Hi, can you tell me your name? Okay, you're muted.
It's muted, Your Honor.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, it looks like you're unmuted now. Tell me your name.
Scott Pierce Enriquez.
Mr. Enriquez, you were here today for an initial appearance on charges out of South Tucson City Court for theft and criminal trespass. The amount on the warrant is $1,000 cash. You do have the right to remain silent on this case. Anything you say can and will be used against you. It looks like you also have other matters that you're being held on. Do you have some other things going on right now?
Court on January 21st.
Okay.
And they I don't know, according to what I understand, I'm just waiting on bed space and rehab.
Okay, all right. So what I'm gonna do on this case, Mr. Enriquez, is I'm gonna honor the South Tucson warrant. So for this one, you're gonna be held on $1,000 cash bond. I'm gonna appoint Michael Vaughn to represent you. And your next court date is going to be February 6th. That's gonna be tomorrow at 10 a.m. And that will be the time for you to see the city court judge at South Tucson. That is also done via video. So much like what you're doing here today, you'll appear for the South Tucson Court magistrate, and you'll have an opportunity to then hopefully get this case resolved before you move out to residential treatment. All right. If for some reason you do end up getting released and head off to residential treatment, please make sure that you contact Mr. Vaughn. When you do get released from the jail, you'll get copies of your paperwork and it'll have Mr. Vaughn's phone number on it. Because if for some reason you don't show up, they could issue a warrant for your arrest. So your out date is going to be February 25th at 10. So if you do head out to residential treatment, that'll be the date for you to go to South Tucson. That will also be on the paperwork that I provide you. If you do fail to show up, they're just going to issue another warrant. All right. Do you understand the consequences for failing to appear?
Oh, yes, Your Honor.
All right. Hopefully you'll be seen tomorrow and that you can get this matter resolved. You're all done for today, Mr. Enriquez.
Thank you.
Your Honor,
Yes.
quick changes, Mr. Wallach
Yes.
and Mr. Guru are taking review this.
Okay. Did we see Mr. Wallach yesterday on other things, or did he refuse yesterday?
Your Honor, if I may, he picked up new charges in the jail after.
Right. No, I understand that. I just want to figure out, I think we saw him yesterday. Does anyone remember?
We did.
Okay. All right. So we will go ahead and move Mr. Wallach to tonight. Give me just a second. Good morning, Mr. Mosley. Hi, give me just a second. I'm finishing up some stuff on another case and I'll be right with you, okay?
Take a soul from but then they were the dangerous instruments or the possessor of that. Of course, you want 60 days sanction. Like the correct day. Sorry, but what I'm in here. You're in because you got a 60 days sanction on your probation. Right? But now you're here for initial appearances on a new allegation. And somebody close to here.
All right. Hi, tell me your name.
Jonathan Anthony Rivera.
Mr. Rivera, you are here today on a warrant for charges involving aggravated assault with a deadly weapon or dangerous instrument, discharging a firearm in city limits, unlawful flight from a law enforcement vehicle, and possession of a deadly weapon by a prohibited possessor. The bond amount on that warrant was $10,000, cash or secured. It looks like that was issued out of Pima County Superior Court. You do have the right to remain silent on these charges. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney in this matter. I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you do have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services They tell me that you are on probation for another matter in 2023-0302, which is a Superior Court case number. Are you all showing any holds from probation jail?
Think so.
No, Your Honor.
Okay. So what they're telling me, sir, is that there is not a probation hold for you at this time. Make sure, we'll talk about release conditions here in a second. That's what we're going to do. And you're going to need to make sure you check in with your probation officer.
Yes, ma'am.
I've had the opportunity to review information provided by the state in this matter. It looks like they're asking for a $75,000 bond.
Your Honor, state modifies that to 25.
All right, anything else that you want to add?
No, Your Honor.
Your Honor, we're asking the court to consider a bond of no more than $15,000.
And it does look like, according to pretrial services, that this was a refiled matter. Is that right? Yes.
Your Honor, and the pretrial services information indicates that he's maybe serving a 60-day sanction starting on January 8th on his probation matter.
Okay. So on this matter today, Mr. Rivera, after considering everything, I am going to impose a bond, cash or secured, of $10,000. If you post that bond, then you're going to be released to pretrial services. You're going to have to participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. You can't have any alcohol or drugs, and no firearms or weapons. Those are all things that, because you're on probation, you won't be allowed to do anyway.
Sure.
Your next court date is going to be the arraignment that you missed in this case. You're not going to be allowed to have any contact with the victim or return to the incident location for the charges that I just read to you. Your arraignment is going to be February 12th at 1:30 in the afternoon. That will be done via video if you are still in custody. If you do get released, you need to make sure that you appear in Pima County Superior Court for that hearing on that date and time. How much more of the 60 days are you serving, Mr. Rivera, for your probation?
I think I got like 3 more weeks.
Okay, you have 3 more weeks left?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you likely then will still be in custody on this. Mr. Mosley can talk with you about the bond amount that I said and the effect it will have if you try to post that before you get released for your probation violation. All right, you do need to make sure that you appear. If you do fail to appear, they will issue a warrant for your arrest. Do you understand the consequences for failing to appear?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you're all done for today, Mr. Rivera.
Felony or misdemeanor?
That's Sheldon.
Sheldon?
Oh,
What's your name?
Sheldon Smith.
Okay.
Good morning, sir. Tell me your full name.
Sheldon Douglas Smith.
Mr. Smith, you are here today on a warrant out of Pima County Superior Court on a charge of aggravated assault on a healthcare professional. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I'm going to appoint the Legal Defender's Office to represent you here today, and you do have counsel seated with you for purposes of today's hearing. We're going to be talking about conditions of release on this case. I do see that you are in custody for other matters. It looks like you have another Pima County Superior Court case going on right now. I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services. I've also had the chance to review the state's recommendation. On the bond that was issued out of Pima County Superior Court for your failure to appear, there is a $5,000 bond listed on that for this offense. It looks like the state is requesting a $50,000 bond. Mr. Poston?
Nothing further.
Mr. Mosley, did you want to be heard? I am inclined to do the $5,000 bond for this case.
We would just ask that it be concurrent, Your Honor.
I'm not going to do concurrent, but I will do a $5,000 cash or secure bond on this case, sir. If you do post that bond, you'll be released to pretrial services. If you do get released to pretrial, you have to participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. You can't have any drugs or alcohol, no firearms or weapons. Your next court date in this case is going to be February 12th at 1:30 in the afternoon. That's going to be the time for your arraignment, the one that you missed on this case. If you are in custody, the jail will make sure that you appear via video, much like you're doing here today. If you get released on your other matters and you post the $5,000 bond in this case, then you need to appear in Pima County Superior Court on February 12th at 1:30. If you fail to appear, a warrant can issue for your arrest. Do you understand the consequences for failing to appear, Mr. Smith?
Yeah.
Okay, you're all done for today.
Thank you.
Step by step, please. Okay.
We're gonna stick with felonies or we're gonna go to misdemeanors? Okay, thank you.
Really follow such.
Good morning. Tell me your name.
Damaris Cortez,
What's your middle name?
Jezebel.
All right, ma'am, you are here today on charges of misdemeanor, looks like disorderly conduct charges. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I've had the opportunity to review some information this morning from pretrial services. It tells me a little bit about you and the circumstances of this case. And pretrial services also had a chance to talk to the victims in this case. We're going to talk about your conditions of release today. You are not going to be able to return to the incident location. Do you have somewhere else that you can reside that is not with these folks?
I can stay with my friend until I sell the property.
Okay, so the address on Pepper Tree Lane, is that where this happened?
Yes, that's my house.
Okay, all right.
I own it.
Okay, so for the time being, even though you own it, you are not going to be allowed to return home. That's going to be a condition of release if I release you here today. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay. So I am going to release you today on your promise to appear, Ms. Cortez. Your conditions of release include not committing any further acts of domestic violence. You can't have any contact with the victims in this case.
Okay.
Hang on. How long have you guys lived at that house?
I bought it 3 years ago.
Okay. So Ms. Cortez, if I do allow you to return home and have contact with the victims in this case, are you going to be able to make sure that you keep the peace and that there's no further acts of domestic violence?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
It does look like with the pretrial report that your partner, Mr. Menivar, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that, did say that you were welcome to return home. I know there's also children in the house. So given the circumstances, I will allow you to return home. Just make sure that there aren't any further acts of domestic violence, okay?
No, no, ma'am.
All
No
right.
more.
Okay. I'm going to give you your next court date. It's going to be March 7th, 2025 at 10:30, and that's going to be at Pima County Justice Court. You don't need to write that down. What's going to happen is when you get released from the jail later today, they're going to give you copies of this paperwork. It is your conditions of release. It's going to have the date and time for your hearing as well as the location for Justice Court where you need to appear. It's important that you appear for that hearing. If you fail to appear, they could issue a warrant for your arrest. Do you understand all your conditions of release, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear?
Yes, I do.
All right, you're excused for today.
Thank you.
Delarza, right. Yeah.
Hi, tell me your name.
Emanuel Delarza.
Mr. Delarza, you are here on a couple different matters today. The first is a warrant out of Nogales Municipal Court for theft. There is a $100 cash bond that's being requested on that case. You're also here for Tucson City Court charges, warrants for assault, criminal trespass, disorderly conduct, and drug paraphernalia. You do have the right to remain silent on all of these charges. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I'm showing an address for you that is general delivery at this time. Are those still your circumstances, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
So the warrant out of Nogales has been pending since 2023. Were you aware of that warrant?
ma'am.
And then your city court charges, looks like those were from October of this year when you failed to appear. So Mr. De La Garza, if I release you today, that's one of the things I have to consider is releasing you. But if I do that, you have to promise to go to these court dates. If you don't, you're going to get picked up on warrants again. You're going to end up back in jail. And the likelihood is you're not going to be released. If you need housing, right outside the jail, there is a trailer. It's the transition center. It's just adjacent or kind of even on the property for the Pima County Jail. They can assist you with housing if you go there if I release you today. So what's it going to be? If I release you, will you promise to show up at the 2 future court dates that I give you?
Yes, ma'am.
How are you going to get to Nogales?
I have family in Rico, actually. I went to the DES office yesterday, and I know that I have to get that taken care of to get like my assistance, you know.
Right.
So definitely gonna get down there this week
Okay.
or next week, you know.
Okay.
It's in the process.
All right. So it needs to be in the process to be taken care of this week. So I'm going to give you 2 new court dates. I am going to release you on your promise to appear for both of these cases today. All right. Your Nogales case, your next court date is going to be February 18th at 8:30 in the morning. That's going to be on a Tuesday. So make sure you coordinate with family members or do whatever you need to do to get down there. If you fail to appear, they're going to issue another warrant for your arrest and you'll be right back here. And that's going to delay your assistance that sounds like you need. Do you understand?
Okay.
Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And then when you get released later today, you're going to get copies of your paperwork. The paperwork that you're going to get, you'll get 2 separate pieces of paper, one from city court and then one with the Nogales case. It's going to have the addresses for those courts and also the court date and time. So make sure you get that paperwork when you leave the jail today. On the Tucson City Court, I am also releasing you on your promise to appear. You're not to have any contact with the victim of that assault. Do not return to any of the incident locations, the criminal trespass, assault, and also whoever the victim was of the disorderly conduct. Your next court date at Tucson City Court is going to be March 12th, 2025 at 9 a.m. And that's going to be in front of Judge Maldonado. Again, when you get released later today, you're going to get all of your paperwork. It's going to have those dates and times for you. Do you understand all of the conditions of release I've imposed here today?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear for these cases?
Yes, I do.
Right, you're all done for today.
Thank you so much.
You too. Good morning. Tell me your full name.
Jonathan Eric Dutton.
Mr. Dutton, you are here today on charges of domestic violence, criminal damage, domestic violence assault, domestic violence, disorderly conduct, and animal cruelty. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I have had the opportunity today to review information provided by pretrial services on this matter. It tells me a little bit about you and the circumstances of this offense. Pretrial also had the opportunity to talk to the victim in this case, who is your girlfriend. Looks like that's Ashley Helms. She says that you are welcome to return home, but if I release you today, you have to promise not to commit any further acts of domestic violence. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
And if I give you a court date, will you promise to appear at that court date?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, I am going to release you on your promise to appear here today. Commit no further acts of domestic violence. Your next court date is going to be March 7th at 10:30 in the morning. That's going to be at Pima County Justice Court. When you get released later today, you are going to get copies of your paperwork, and that's going to have the date and time for your hearing and also where you need to appear. If you do fail to appear at that hearing, they could issue a warrant for your arrest. Do you understand the conditions of release that I've imposed here today?
Yes, Your Honor.
And do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, you're all done, Mr. Dutton.
Thank you. Gibson.
Hi, sir. Tell me your name.
Jose Gibson.
All right, Mr. Gibson, you are here today for your initial appearance on charges of domestic violence, disorderly conduct, and domestic violence criminal damage. Margarita is here in the courtroom with us today, and I'm going to get her input on your conditions of release. That's what we're here to set. We're talking about conditions of release on these charges. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services. It looks like Margarita had the chance to talk to them, and she did indicate that she is welcoming further contact with you and doesn't object to your release. Margarita, do you have things you'd like to tell me about his conditions of release, not about the facts of the case? Okay. So Mr. Gibson, if I release you today to go back home, you are not to commit any further acts of domestic violence. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Will you promise to abide by that condition of release if I release you today?
Yes, Your Honor.
Will you also promise to show up at a court date that I give you in the future?
Yes, Your Honor.
Right. I am going to release you today on your promise to appear. Again, your conditions of release are committing no further acts of domestic violence. I will allow you to return home and also have contact with Margarita in this case. Your next hearing is March 7th, 2025 at 10:30. That's going to be at Pima County Justice Court. You do need to appear at that date and time. If you fail to appear, a warrant could issue for your arrest. Do you understand all of the conditions that I imposed here today?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand the consequences if you were to fail to appear?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, you're all done for today. Ma'am, thank you for being here, okay? This officer can explain to you how the whole release thing
Sure.
works, all right? Hi, tell me your name.
Adriana Ochoa.
Miss Ochoa, you are here today on a warrant out of South Tucson City Court. And it looks like you also have some new charges, all relating to domestic violence. One is for disorderly conduct. The other is assault, disorderly conduct, and criminal damage. You do have the right to remain silent on these charges. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services on this matter. Looks like you have a general delivery address at this time. Are those still your circumstances, ma'am?
Yeah. What does that mean?
It means that, are you unhoused right now? Do you have somewhere that you're living?
I'm at a CBI, the shelter.
Okay, all right. So if I release you today, one of the conditions is that you're not going to be allowed to return to your mother-in-law's house or have any contact with her. So if I release her today, you're going to have to go back to CBI, whatever location that you're at. Will you do that?
Yes, I will.
And if I release you, will you promise to appear at a court date that I give you in the future at South Tucson?
Yes, I will.
And if you let the folks at CBI know, they may be able to assist you with transportation if you need help with that, okay? You're nodding your head. Can you answer out loud for me?
Okay.
All right. I am going to release you on your promise to appear today. Your conditions of release are committing no acts of domestic violence, do not have any contact with your mother-in-law, she's the victim, and don't go to where she's living or working. Do you understand those conditions of release?
I do.
And then your next court date at South Tucson City Court is going to be February 25th at 10 o'clock in the morning. If you fail to appear at that date and time, they'll issue a warrant for your arrest. Do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear?
I do.
And Ms. Ochoa, when you get released later today, you're going to get copies of your paperwork. It's going to have the conditions of release and also the date and time for your next court hearing, as well as the address for the courthouse. So make sure you grab that paperwork before you leave the jail today, all right?
Okay.
You're all done for today, ma'am.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Good morning.
Good morning,
Tell me your full name.
Mark, M-A-R-K, Rosson, R-A-W-S-O-N.
Mr. Rosson, you are here today on a few different matters. It looks like you have a warrant out of Casa Grande Justice Court. You have some Tucson City Court matters, and you also have some matters in Pima County Justice Court relating to criminal trespass and resisting arrest. You do have the right to remain silent on all these matters. Anything you say can and will be used against you. Mr. Rosson, I'm noting that it looks like you are unhoused at this time. Do you have a place that you've been staying or residing?
I'm my young girl's brother named Matthew Dawson. He helps me out, but he's my real brother, so he helps me out, but he knows I'm homeless and he helps me out with like what I like when he visits me or when he lets me go see him, but I help him out a lot, like I'll do stuff for him, like chores or something, but I'm real good with that, but he helps me out, but not with money, but he helps me out, he helps me out whenever I need, 'cause I'm homeless and stuff on the street, so yeah. But I gave you an handle and stuff, but you guys don't know how to get a hold of them. But thank you.
All right, so I'm gonna do a few different things today with your release, Mr. Rosson. I do note that you have multiple failures to appear for your Tucson City Court cases. So it looks like you have some difficulty actually getting to court. So I'm gonna talk about your Casa Grande case first. I'm gonna release you on the Casa Grande case. And your next hearing in Casa Grande is going to be February 21st at 9 a.m. So by then, you probably will be out of custody and you're going to have to make arrangements to either get to Casa Grande Justice Court for that hearing or contact them so that you can let them know what's going on. If you don't go to that hearing, they're going to issue a warrant for your arrest. Do you understand that, Mr. Rosson?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Now let's talk about your justice court matter. This is the new charges that you got arrested for, the criminal trespass and resisting arrest. I'm also going to, I'm going to release you on those justice court cases or justice court charges as well on your promise to appear. You are not allowed to go back to the incident location. So you're not going to be allowed to return back to the place where you were trespassing on Wetmore Road. Do you understand that?
Yes.
You'll promise to stay away from there?
Yes.
Your next court date in Pima County Justice Court is going to be March 7th at 8:30 in the morning. If you fail to appear at that date and time, they can issue a warrant for your arrest. Do you understand that?
Yes.
When you get released, they are going to provide you with paperwork, and the paperwork is going to have all the dates and times on it.
Yes.
For the Tucson City Court case, Mr. Rosson, I am going to impose a bond in that case in the amount of $500. That is going to be a cash or secured bond. I'm going to appoint the City Public Defender's Office to represent you. And same conditions, do not return to any of the incident locations where the criminal trespasses occurred.
Yes.
There are victims there, so you can't have contact with them. So if you are unable to post that $500 bond, then someone from the public defender's office will be contacting you to let you know what to do on those cases. Your next hearing is going to be a video review hearing, and that's going to be next week. It's going to be on February 14th at 1:45 in the afternoon, and that's going to be in front of Judge Hale. You'll likely appear via video, much like you're doing here today, so that you can
Yes.
get these city court matters taken care of.
Yes.
Do you understand your conditions of release in your Tucson City Court case?
Yes.
Okay. And if you fail to appear, do you understand that there will be a warrant issued for your arrest again?
Yes. Will I be released like today?
Not unless you can post the $500 bond on the city court case.
Or-
I released you on your other cases. So whenever you do get out, Mr. Rosson, the jail's going to have paperwork for you for your Casa Grande case and also
Yeah.
your Pima County Justice Court case. Make sure you get that paperwork so you can get the court dates for those cases. Hopefully, by the time you get out, your city court cases will be resolved and you'll have someone from the public defender's office that will be talking to you before that hearing on the 14th, okay?
Good.
All right. There is also, have you ever been to the transition center? No? If you do get released and you're wanting to talk with someone about housing or other services in the community, you can stop at the transition center. They're located right there on the jail property, just kind of in a trailer kind of off to the side. Someone from the jail, I'm sure, will point that out to you. They're open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. If you just stop in there when you get released, they may be able to assist you with some of those services. I just want to make sure you know that's available to you, all right?
All right.
Okay, you're all done for today, Mr. Rosson.
All right.
Roberts? Roberts?
Hi, tell me your name.
There's Roberts.
What's your last name? Roberts? Is that your last name?
Yes.
Okay, all right. You are here today on charges of obstructing a public highway, criminal trespass, resisting arrest, and refusing to provide your truthful name. This is the time for your initial appearance where we're going to set conditions of release on these charges. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I have an address for you. It looks like, Mr. Roberts, that's in Chandler. Is that still where you're residing, or do you have a residence here in Tucson?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, what?
In Chandler.
What's your address in Chandler? What's the street name you live on?
Tyson Street.
Okay. Do you have other people that you live with at that residence?
Right now I'm homeless.
Okay, so you don't live at the address in Chandler.
No.
All right. So, Mr. Roberts, if I release you on these charges today, will you promise to show up at a court date that I give you at Justice Court in the future? That's going to be here in Tucson. It's going to be about a month away. Will you promise to do that? Okay. I am going to release you on that promise to appear that you just gave me. You're not to have any contact with the victims. Don't go back to the incident location where you got arrested. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Your next court date is going to be March 7th at 8:30 in the morning at Pima County Justice Court. When you get released later today, Mr. Roberts, they're going to give you a copy of your paperwork that's going to have the date and time, the address for the court, and also the phone number. If you fail to appear at that date and time, they could issue a warrant for your arrest. Do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear?
Yeah.
When you get released later today, there is something called the Transition Center. And it's right there, kind of adjacent to the jail property. It's in a trailer. I'm sure someone would be happy to point that out to you. They offer a variety of services, including assisting people with housing and other substance abuse issues and other services in our community. You don't have to go by there, but I'm encouraging you to stop by the Transition Center when you get released later today. They may be able to assist you with the housing situation, okay?
All right.
All right, you're all done for today, Mr. Roberts.
Meg Walker?
Good morning. Tell me your full name.
Meg Walker.
Is your middle name Renee?
Yes.
All right. You are here this morning on multiple counts of disorderly conduct, fighting, assault, and criminal damage. This is the time for your initial appearance where we're going to set conditions of release. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. Looks like I have an address for you out in Sarita. Is that a good address for you on Matty Canyon Drive?
That is the incident address.
Okay, so do you have somewhere else that you can reside or stay?
And to like someone from work. Later tonight.
So yes, you have friends you can stay with if I release you today? So it looks like we do have, is it your mom, Miss Walker, who's on the phone today? Miss Walker, can you hear me? You may need to hit *6 on your phone so that I can hear you.
Yeah.
Hi. So we're here to talk about conditions of release for Megan. I've had the opportunity to review the information provided by pretrial services. And what they've told me is that you do not want her to return to your residence, but you don't object to her release. Is there anything else you'd like me to know, Ms. Walker?
You can retrieve her belongings, of course, and I did reserve a place for her to stay that is close to work where she can stay tonight.
Okay, and is that information that you want to pass along to us here?
Should have automatically been sent to her email,
Okay,
but her dad also has the information.
okay. All right, so she can have contact with her dad to be able to get that information about where she'll be able to stay.
Correct.
Okay. Anything else you wanted me to know today about conditions of release, Ms. Walker?
No, I just want her to just get on with her life and do well at work and not have her job interrupted. I didn't want this at all.
All right, thank you for appearing here today. All right, Megan, I am going to release you today on your promise to appear. I'm going to give you conditions of release. That means you have to abide by all the things I'm about to tell you. You cannot commit any acts of domestic violence. You cannot return to the incident location or have any contact with your mom right now. Or it looks like your roommate and then your uncle, who were also at the house at the time that all this occurred. All three of them are listed as victims currently. You understand all those conditions of release?
Yes.
And are you going to agree to abide by all of those?
Yes.
All right. Your next court hearing in this case is going to be February 25th at 8:30 in the morning. That's going to be at Sarita Municipal Court. When you get released later today, you will get a copy of the paperwork. It's going to have the address and also the court date that I just gave you. I am going to check a box on your conditions of release that says you can return to the incident location one time with a police escort. So that means if the address is in Sarita, you're going to need to take this piece of paper to a nearby substation so that the police can accompany you to the house. Do not go to the house without law enforcement with you. You can't take your dad over there in place of law enforcement. You've got to go with law enforcement. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay, so that box will be checked and law enforcement will usually want you to have that paperwork so that they know what's going on, okay? You're all done for today.
Thank you.
Escalante, sir. How you doing, Your Honor? My name is Anthony Gray Escalante.
Mr. Escalante, it looks like you were here today on some city court matters.
Yes, ma'am, and it's been a long day, long night. Excuse me.
Going to get a little bit longer. So you were here, it looks like on a petition to revoke probation. That is for an adjudication. You were adjudicated guilty of DUI, placed on unsupervised probation for a period of 12 months. There were written conditions of probation that were imposed that you would have signed and been provided. And it looks like you failed to submit proof of your DUI screening and treatment and attending your MAD programs, which is a violation of your probation. So they filed a petition to revoke that probation. So that's one of the things that you were here for today. Looks like there's going to be an arraignment on that petition to revoke probation February 5th at 9 a.m. And that's going to be for the in custody arraignments for that particular case. You are also here on charges of domestic violence, disorderly conduct, and domestic violence assault. Those are misdemeanor offenses. You do have the right to remain silent on all of this. Anything you say can and will be used against you. We also have the victim who's present with us here on Teams today. Ma'am, can you hear me? Okay. Can you tell me your name?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, my name is Alexis Lopez.
All right. So Ms. Lopez, I did have a chance to review information provided by pretrial services. They've told me that in their conversation, you indicated that Mr. Escalante, you don't object to his release. You do want to have further contact with him, and he does not live with you. Is all of that true?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Is there anything else you wanted me to know? For purposes of conditions of release, we're not going to be talking about the circumstances of the offense in this case.
Me?
Yes, that he has been suffering from drug addiction for a little over 2 years. He's a really good, hardworking man, and it's just the drugs that are messing with him.
All right. Thank you for that information, ma'am. Mr. Escalante, I am going to, at this time, impose a bond on all of these matters. It's going to be a $2,000 cash or secured bond that I'm imposing today for your Tucson City Court matters. I am going to appoint the City Public Defender's Office to represent you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Conditions of release: don't possess or consume any alcohol or drugs. Given the statements from Ms. Lopez, I'm not going to restrict contact with the two of you at this time. So you are going to be allowed to have contact with her. Give me just,
All right. Thank you.
give me just a second. I need to confirm some court dates with.
And Your Honor, may I say something or?
Give me just a second, Mr. Escalante.
Yes, ma'am. I am patient. Wait.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Escalante.
Okay, now I just want to start by apologizing to anybody involved. And just now in the holding cell, I was realizing I was barely coming back to everything that happened. It was kind of like a blackout moment for me. And the way I remember it, it was like I saw
Mr. Escalante, I don't want you to talk about what you remember about what happened. Okay, we don't want to talk. We don't
I
want
was
to.
just gonna say.
I just want to make sure you understand. I don't want you to talk about the offenses. Go ahead.
Oh, yes, ma'am. I was gonna share with you my medical conditions, apologize, and hope that it plays a factor in am I suffer from PTSD. I've been struggling with depression since my NALA passed. And the only thing I remember about anything that happened in any of these cases is that I was sitting there mourning her. And I flipped out when I was sitting there mourning her, dude. And I believe I was the one that called the cops on myself. Trying to, I realized what happened, and I will be seeking the medical attention I need if released. Thank you. And
So, Mr. Escalante, I am going to keep that $2,000 cash or secured bond in place. If you can post the bond, then you'll be released. Again, you can't possess or consume any alcohol or drugs. Your next court date, if you stay in custody, is going to be February 12th at 1:30, and that's going to be a video review hearing, much like you're doing here today. That's going to be in front of Judge Million. We're going to consolidate your matters, so your petition to revoke on your DUI will also be handled at that time as well. If you do end up posting bond and you get released, you also need to appear at that date and time at Tucson City Court. If you do get released, you're going to get a copy of your paperwork that will have all the information we talked about, and it'll include your court date as well as the address for Tucson City Court. You do have someone from the City Public Defender's Office that's been appointed to represent you, so they should be contacting you. The information you shared with me here today is information you should share with them. There are a lot of resources here in Tucson that will be able to assist you with any issues relating to your PTSD and any treatment for substance abuse. So I would encourage you to talk to your attorney about that to see what services you might be able to get connected to. All right?
thank you much.
You're all done for today. Ma'am, thank you for calling in. We're all done with that case.
Thank you.
Good morning. Tell me your name.
Morning, my name is Samantha Garcia.
Ms. Garcia, you are here today on charges out of Tucson City Court for criminal damage and also disorderly conduct. These are domestic violence offenses. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I've had the opportunity to review some information provided by pretrial services in this matter. At this time, it looks like we have been unable to get any kind of contact or feedback from Mr. Badia, who's the victim in this case. So what that means is if I release you here today, I'm going to order that you cannot have contact with him, which means you aren't going to be allowed to return back to the incident location or where he is. Do you have somewhere else that you can reside or are residing?
I can go to my grandma's house.
Okay. And is that, it looks like pretrial services indicated that there is an address on South Camino Copium Street, and that was with your mom.
Yeah, that's my grandma's house.
That's your grandma's house. Okay, so that's where
Yes.
you'll be able to stay if I release you.
Okay. I have a question. So if I want to get my babies, the twin girls, from the father, how would that work out?
So the conditions of release I'm issuing today are that you not have any contact with him. Is Mr. Badia the father of your children?
Yes.
Okay. Is your mom or someone able to communicate with him about the kids or your grandmother?
Yeah.
Okay. So the order that I'm entering today until your next court date is that you not have any contact with him and you can't go to wherever it is that he may be living or working. So if your mom wants to communicate for purposes of the children with him, that's absolutely fine, or your grandmother, whatever family member or friend that can do that. When you go to court, you'll have the opportunity to talk with the judge about whether or not those conditions can be amended for purposes of the kids. Do you understand? Do you understand all of
Yes.
that? Okay.
Yes.
This is also the time for your arraignment on these new charges. You are presumed innocent. I'm going to enter not guilty pleas on your behalf. Your next court date in this case is going to be March 7th, 2025 at 9 a.m. And that's going to be in front of Judge Millian at Tucson City Court. You do need to appear at that date and time. If you fail to appear, a warrant could issue for your arrest. They could also go forward without you being present and go forward in your absence. With the hearing date I just gave you, they could also set subsequent hearings, including a trial. If you get convicted at that trial in your absence and can't be sentenced within 90 days, you could also lose your right to a direct appeal on that matter. Do you understand all of those consequences for failing to appear?
Yes.
When you get released later today, you're going to get copies of your paperwork. It's going to have the date and time and also the conditions of release we talked about. Is there any reason that you need to return to the residence to obtain any belongings?
I'll probably just need clothes. That's it.
All right. So on your conditions of release, I'm going to check the box that says you can return one time with law enforcement to get that stuff. So if you're going to go retrieve your items, you need to take the conditions of release order that you'll get today with you to a nearby police station, show them the order, and they will accompany you to the residence. Don't go back there by yourself. If you have a family member that wants to get those things for you and bring them to you, then that won't apply. But if you return to the residence, it can be one time, and you have to make sure you take the police with you. Okay?
Okay.
All right. You're all done for today, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Don, Jeffrey.
Good morning. Tell me your name.
Good morning.
All right. Looks like you are here on multiple matters out of Tucson City Court, warrants for failing to appear for criminal trespass, 3 different counts, and also shoplifting. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say will be used against you. have an address for you, sir, on East Hendrick Drive. Is that still a good address for you?
No.
What is a good address for you?
It's 702 South 6th Avenue.
Do you know the zip out there?
701.
So it looks like the warrants were just issued in December of 2024. If I release you today, will you promise to show up at a court date that I give you?
Yep.
And you understand that you have to show up at that court date. If you don't show up, they're going to keep issuing warrants for you. And the likelihood is the next time you won't be released, they're going to end up holding you. Do you understand? Do you have a way to get to court when I give you your next court date?
Yeah.
All right. And it sounds like you're close to downtown, so even walking should be an option for you. It sounds like it's not that far away. Your next court date, I am going to release you on your promise to appear on these cases. You need to see Judge Maldonado on March 12th at 9 a.m. at Tucson City Court. When you get released later today, you are going to get a copy of your court paperwork. It's going to have the date and time that I just provided to you. You are not to have any contact with the victims or return to the incident locations where the shopliftings and criminal trespasses occur. Do you understand?
Yeah.
And if you fail to appear, they're going to issue a warrant for you. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
All right, you're all done for today. I think I signed that one.
Hello,
Tell me your name.
Joseph Navarro.
Is it Navarro Castro?
Navarro Castro, yes.
And middle name is Ramiro?
Yes.
Right. You are here today on a warrant for a DV assault and DV disorderly conduct case out of Tucson City Court. You do have the right to remain silent on these charges. Anything you say can and will be used against you. Looks like you were supposed to appear on January 28th and failed to appear, so they issued a warrant for you.
Treatment for like for detoxing and into sober living home. And I when I was in treatment, I forgot. I thought they would call the court and to let them know I was there.
Yeah, treatments don't do that. That's something that you
Yeah.
need to remember to take care of.
Yeah.
So if I release you today, will you promise to go to the court date that I give you?
Yes.
Are you all done with treatment?
That's the I was going to treatment because I'm trying to get back into a sober living home.
Okay. So obviously you're going to be able to do all of those things, but if you find yourself in residential, you're going to get a copy when you get released today of this paperwork. When you get a copy of the paperwork, take that with you to wherever it is that you're going, because that's going to have the date and time of your next court date and where you need to be. So if you end up back in residential or at a treatment facility, let them know when it is, but you need to make arrangements if for some reason you're unable to attend your court hearings. You can't rely on someone else to do that for you. Do you understand?
I understand.
All right. And it looks like there is something going on with Superior Court. Jail, do you have any kind of other hold for him? All right. So regardless of what I do on this case then, sir, it sounds like you're going to end up being held on the Superior Court case for adult probation. I am still going to release you on this Tucson City Court case. Whenever you get released, you're not to have any contact with the victim and don't return to the incident location for your Tucson City Court matter.
Okay. And so it's up to, because I think I'm going to for later on today. It's up to probation pretty much to see if they're gonna like release me or violate me, right?
So you're going to be seen in Pima County Superior Court for whatever's going on with your probation hold. So yes, your probation officer will be in touch with you to let you know what's going on. But I'm not seeing you on that today. The only thing I'm seeing you on is this warrant out of Tucson City Court. So I'm releasing you. So whatever happens with probation, you're going to get released on your city court case whenever your probation officer or the court says that it's okay for you to be released. Do you understand? So
Yes.
your next court date for Tucson City Court is actually going to be March 21st at 9 a.m. and that's going to be in front of Judge Verena. If for some reason you're still in custody, you need to make sure that you tell your probation officer about this next court date. Do you understand?
I understand.
Do you understand all the conditions of release that I imposed here today?
Yes.
And if you fail to appear for that court date, whatever your reason, they can issue another warrant for your arrest. Do you understand that as well?
I understand.
You're all done.
Proctor.
Is that it?
Hi, tell me your name.
Richard Proctor?
All right, Mr. Proctor, you were here today on warrants out of Tucson City Court for drug paraphernalia, loitering. It looks like another count of drug paraphernalia. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you. Jail, are you showing other felony holds on him as well?
Not a felony hold, Your Honor. He is serving a sentence.
Out of what jurisdiction?
Oro Valley.
Okay. Mr. Proctor, how much longer do you have on that sentence?
20 days or 19 days, I believe.
Okay, so if I release you on these city court matters, you'll be out of custody in time to make it to your next court date.
It should be, yes.
Will you promise to show up at that court date? You've got to get this taken care of.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I'm going to release you on the city court charges. You do need to appear on March 21st at 9 a.m.
Okay.
And that's going to be Tucson City Court in front of Judge Hale. Right? Do not return to the incident location. Wherever you were loitering, do not go back there. Do you understand those conditions of release?
Yes, ma'am.
And if you fail to appear on that March 21st date at 9, they can issue another warrant for your arrest. Do you understand that as well?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Proctor, you're all done for today.
All right, thank you. Philip Rios?
Hi, tell me your name.
Philip Rios.
You're here on multiple matters out of Tucson City Court, all involving warrants and your failure to appear at hearings. The charges are criminal trespass, multiple counts, and also multiple counts of drug paraphernalia. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say kind of will be used against you. I'm showing an address for you in cells. Are you still residing out in cells?
Back and forth. I'm back and forth. I'm kind of living with was gonna live with a friend and out here in Tucson. I'm trying to get out here in town so I can start work.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you haven't appeared for any of your court hearings.
Yeah. It's been a hectic year.
Okay, well, so what's going to happen today is I am going to impose a bond at this time. It is going to be a $1,000 cash or secured bond. If you're able to post that bond, then you'll be able to be released. Your
Honor, I have no one. I have no one. No family members. It's just me.
So if you're not able to post that bond, then you're going to stay in custody.
It's just me and my girlfriend. That's about it.
I'm going to appoint the city public defender's office to represent you on these cases. Your next hearing is going to be a video review hearing on February 14th at 1:45, and that's going to be in front of Judge Maldonado. If you end up getting released and posting that bond, then you're going to have a different hearing date. That hearing date is going to be March 12th at 9 a.m. So if you remain in custody, it will be the February 14th, and the jail will have you appear via video, much like you're doing here today. But if you post that bond and you do get released, it's the March 12th at 9 a.m. If you fail to appear for that March 12th hearing, if you're out, they're going to issue more warrants for your arrest. Do you understand the consequences for failing to appear? I need an out loud answer, sir.
Yes.
All right. You're all done for today. Scotty. Morning. Tell me your name.
Morning, Your Honor. It's Charles Ray Russell.
Mr. Russell, you are here today for an initial appearance on charges of resisting arrest and a domestic violence related charge of intentionally placing a person in fear of physical injury, a domestic violence assault case. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. We also have the victim for this case on the line. Can you hear me? Is this Megan? Okay. So Megan, I've had the opportunity to review information provided to me by pretrial services on this case. It does tell me that you do want to have further contact, but that you're not going to be staying at the same house as him and you don't object to release. Is that still all true?
Because I'm staying with them because I'm waiting for my section 8 voucher to get it on Thursday. When you're done, at other times, I believe there are some extenuating circumstances, the situation, not this case particular, that I feel need to be heard for Charles's sake.
Okay, so what I will tell you, ma'am, is I do not want to hear anything about what happened in this case. The circumstance of the offense, anything like that is not what we're talking about here today. The only thing that I'm here to discuss today is conditions of release. So, Mr. Russell, I am inclined to release you if you promise that you're going to show up at the next court date that I give you. Will you promise to do that?
Yes, ma'am.
Jail, are you showing a hold for him?
Yes, Your Honor, we just received a hold from Department of Corrections.
Okay. All right. So never mind. That's going to change things, Mr. Russell. Megan, hang on just a second, okay? So, Mr. Russell, what that means is it doesn't, regardless of what I do for these city court charges, DOC has placed that hold. So until that hold is lifted, you're going to remain in the Pima County Jail. We're still going to talk about these release conditions today. I can still release you on these charges. It just means that you're going to continue to be held there for the DOC matter. Once that's resolved, then you could be released on this case. All right?
So how do I get in contact with my parole officer?
Hopefully you
Help them at all or done anything.
Megan. So basically whatever happened in this case, it's up to DOC now to decide when he's going to get released. So do you have anything else you want to tell me that relates to his conditions of release on this case only, the domestic violence matters?
Because this is because there's been a lot of life. What was your question again?
Do you have anything else to tell me that relates just to the conditions of release for Mr. Russell? I'm going to release him on the domestic violence charges, but he's going to remain in custody until he gets his parole situation worked out.
I understand that, but I'm having trouble understanding is his parole officer has not shown up to meetings when he has shown up, and now he's being.
That's not anything, ma'am.
With me.
No, because that's not anything that I have the ability to talk with you about. So you can, anything that you say about his parole or any other matter, unfortunately, I am not going to be able to do anything about that. You can contact DOC or his parole officer on his behalf if you know who that is. Looks like he's nodding his head. He may want you to do that, but I do not have any jurisdiction or control over anything with DOC. So none of the information you want to provide to me about that is going to change my ability to do anything here today.
Oh my gosh, so good. This is I've watched this man overcome so many obstacles and do everything he's supposed to do and lies, because I truly believe his mom is telling him these reports, even though nothing has happened, and he's doing everything. And I don't want him institutionalized, which you and I both know can happen. And when a probation officer is not doing their job and we can't get a hold of her, and like he's now going to sit there when his grandma needs him at home, and I need him here. And you know, the justice system isn't doing anything about the man that is harassing me and blackmailing me and whatnot. But here, this man is doing everything he can over lies, over both his DV charges are lies, because I've told them nothing happened.
Okay, Megan,
Like,
Megan, I need,
just-
so no, I can't. You, as a victim, you have the right to speak, but only on release conditions. And I've explained that to you, and now you're going on about other things. So I'm very glad to hear that Mr. Russell has been working very hard to get things together. So again, today I am going to release him on these domestic violence charges. So he will be released, but not until his DOC matter gets resolved. Do you understand that, Mr. Russell?
She can hear me right now, can't she?
She should be able to hear you, yes, but I'm not going to let you talk to her. You can't direct anything to her. I'm sure she'll. Yes, so I'm sure she heard you, but yes, she can contact your parole officer, try to get a hold of him. The only condition of release I'm imposing on this case, Mr. Russell, is that you commit no acts of domestic violence. Do you understand that? Okay, so your next court date is going to be a video review hearing. That video review hearing is going to be on February 12th at 1:30. If you're still in custody then, and you may very well be, that is going to be via video, much like you're doing here today in front of Judge Millian. If you end up getting out before that date, you do have to appear at Tucson City Court at that date and time for this case. If you fail to appear, they could issue a warrant for your arrest. Do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear?
Yes, I do, Honest.
All right, we're all done with this case for today. Megan, thank you for your input.
Baby, they're not gonna let me out until I finish parole in April.
No, I'm higher up. I'm going to higher up. I love you. This is ridiculous.
Okay, guys,
Thank
now
you,
it's
Your
not the
Honor.
time. Bye.
Bye-bye.
That's last misdemeanor.
That was right. Both dates, the in and out. Okay. To give him extended time because he's got the other things going on. Yeah, great. Thank you. Hi, tell me your name.
Wait,
Mr. DePont, you are here today for an initial appearance. Mr. Mosley, can you show him the charge that he's here for, please?
Yes, I can. Just a minute. He has seen it, Your Honor.
Thank you. So this is the time for your initial appearance on that felony charge today, sir. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I am going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you on this matter. I've had an opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services, tells me a little bit about you and your circumstances. I've also had an opportunity to review information provided by the state. They're asking for a $2,500 bond. Mr. Poston, anything to add?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Mr. Mosley?
Your Honor, we're asking for a release to pretrial services.
Mr. DePont, if I release you to pretrial services, you are going to have to report to the sheriff's department within the next 2 days of getting released to get some matters taken care of. You can talk with someone at the public defender's office about that, but if I release you, you're going to have to promise to show up at future court dates here in Tucson. Are you going to do that? I need an out loud answer.
Yes, yes.
All right. So I'm going to release you to pretrial services. That means you need to stay in contact with that agency. You're ordered to participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. While you're under release to them, you're not to have any alcohol or illegal drugs, and you can't have any firearms. As I've indicated, you do need to report to the Pima County Sheriff's Department within 2 working days of your release. So definitely before the end of this week, within the next 2 days, you need to go there and again, communicate with your public defender about that. Your next hearing is February 25th at 1:30. That's a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, but you are expected to show up at all future court dates. And if you fail to appear, a warrant could issue for your arrest. That means it's important that you stay in contact with your attorney from the public defender's office and also pretrial services in case court dates change. Do you understand the conditions of release that I've imposed here today?
Yes.
And do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear?
Yes.
You're all done for today. Hi, tell me your name.
Cesar Miranda.
Mr. Miranda, you are here today for an initial appearance on a charge that I am going to ask Mr. Mosley, the attorney seated next to you, to show you.
He has seen it, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Mosley. You do have the right to remain silent, sir. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney in this matter. Today, I'm going to appoint the legal advocate's office to represent you. You do have someone from the public defender's office seated next to you today for purposes of this hearing where we're going to talk about conditions of release. I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services. It tells me a little bit about you and the circumstances. I've also had a chance to review information provided by the state's attorney with respect to conditions of release. Mr. Poston, you're asking for a $50,000 bond. Is there anything you want to add?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Mosley?
Your Honor, he has no felony history. We're asking for a bond of no more than $5,000. We're also asking the court to consider pretrial release.
Looks like this is an incident that happened back in October of 2024. Mr. Miranda does not have any prior criminal history. I am going to impose a bond in this matter of $10,000, cash or secured. If you're able to post that bond, Mr. Miranda, then you're going to be released to pretrial services. If you do get released to pretrial services, your additional conditions of release are to participate in any monitoring or treatment they may direct. You are not allowed to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs. You cannot have any firearms while this case is going on. And you are not to have any contact with the victim in this case. Do not go anywhere near where she is living or working. Do you understand all of those conditions of release?
Yes, ma'am.
Your next court date is going to be February 18th, 2025 at 1:30. That is a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, but you will be expected to show up at all future court dates in this matter. And if you fail to appear, a warrant could issue for your arrest. That means it's going to be very important for you to stay in contact with your attorney at the legal advocate's office in the event there are any date changes. Do you understand the consequences for failing to appear?
Yes, ma'am.
You're all done for today, Mr. Miranda.
Thank you.
And it looks like we're on to our Spanish speakers. Do we have our interpreter present?
Yes, Your Honor, the interpreter's on the line.
Thank you for your patience this morning.
Your Honor, we have Mr. Rivera next, but I don't believe Spanish speaker.
Oh, you're right. Sorry. The Spanish speakers are next. Okay. Hi, sir. Tell me your name.
Hey, Rivera.
Mr. Rivera, you are here today for an initial appearance on charges of possession of dangerous drugs, possession of narcotic drug, and possession of drug paraphernalia. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney in this matter. I am going to appoint Sarah Wright to represent you. It looks like you also have someone that's here in court today. And I'm sorry, wife, is that who's here? Okay, so your wife is in the courtroom here today. I've had an opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services on this matter. I've also had a chance to review the state's recommendation. So, Mr. Rivera, because of the nature of the charges, you may be eligible to participate in a pre-indictment diversion program that the county attorney's office offers. If you agree to participate in substance abuse treatment for a period of time and stay in contact with pretrial services, the state may not go forward with these felony charges. Is that a program you'd like to see if you're eligible for and participate?
Absolutely.
Great. So with that, I am going to release Mr. Rivera to pretrial services. Does anyone need to be heard? Mr. Poston, Mr. Mosley?
No, Your Honor.
All right. So what I'm going to do, Mr. Rivera, is give you a court date of next week. So February 12th at 9 a.m. is going to be your hearing for the what we refer to as the STEPS matter. That's the pre-indictment diversion program. You'll need to go to the 3rd floor of Pima County Superior Court on that date and see Judge Hampson. In the courtroom is going to be attorneys from the public defender's office, or Sarah Wright will be there on your behalf. You'll also have treatment providers and pretrial services that will be in the courtroom. You'll be able to review the terms and decide if you want to participate, if you're eligible, and that will be the time for the state to decide and let you know. I am releasing you to pretrial services, which means that you have to stay in contact with that agency, participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. You are not allowed to have any alcohol or illegal drugs, and you can't have any firearms while this case is going on. Are we willing to waive time for the preliminary hearing, Mr. Mosley?
Yes, Your Honor.
So, Mr. Rivera, what I just asked your attorney is normally the state would have 20 days to obtain an indictment in this case if they were going to, but because you may be eligible to participate in this program, we're going to give that time, we're going to extend that time out to 45 days, okay? So that means that after the STEPS hearing next week, and it's really important that you go to that hearing so you can get connected to these services. But the next hearing after that will be March 24th at 1:30, and that's going to be a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, but it's important that you stay in contact with Ms. Wright, your attorney, in the event that that date changes. And that date could change depending upon what happens at your court date next week. Do you understand all the conditions of release that I imposed today?
Sure.
And if you fail to appear, they can issue a warrant for your arrest. Do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear? You are all done for today. Now we're on to the Spanish speakers.
Thank you.
Sure, let's see.
Cuevas.
Save it to the end and let me just take a look at it. Okay. All right, here we go with our first Spanish speaker. Sir, tell me your name.
Señor, dígame su nombre.
Sergio Cuevas Sosa.
Sergio Cuevas Sosa.
Mr. Cuevas Sosa, you are here today on a charge of prohibited possessor weapons misconduct. It's a felony offense.
Señor Cuevas Sosa, usted está el día de hoy por cargos de una persona que tiene prohibido cargar un arma de fuego, que es una
conducta indebida, un delito grave.
This is the time for your initial appearance on these charges. So we're going to be talking about your conditions of release.
Y este es el día para su y comparecencia inicial sobre estos cargos y vamos a hablar sobre sus condiciones de liberación.
You do have the right to remain silent on this charge. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney, and I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you. You do have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing today.
Y usted tiene derecho a permanecer en silencio. Cualquier cosa que diga puede y será usada en su contra. Voy a nombrarle un abogado para que lo represente de la Oficina de Defensoría Pública. El día de hoy tiene a su lado un abogado representante para la audiencia de hoy.
I do need to tell you that regardless of what we do here on this case today, sir, it does look like you have a hold that has been on you from the Adult Probation Department and also by Immigration and Customs as well.
Y también le quiero decir que, aparte de lo que les voy a decir del caso de hoy, usted tiene una orden de retención por parte del Departamento de Libertad Condicional de Adultos y también del Departamento de Aduanas y de Inmigración.
So until your probation and ICE matters gets resolved, you'll be remaining in custody on those other matters. That's not what we're here to talk about today.
Bueno, y hasta que se resuelvan los temas con el Departamento de Libertad Condicional de Adultos y con el Servicio de Aduanas y de Inmigración, va a permanecer bajo custodia y no vamos a hablar de esos temas el día de hoy, de esos casos.
I've had the opportunity to review information provided by recommending a $5,000 bond in this case, Mr. Poston, before the interpreter will translate, and then I'll let you be heard if you want.
Very well.
Y usted ya tuve la oportunidad de revisar el informe de los servicios previos al juicio y también la recomendación de la Fiscalía. Recomienda a la Fiscalía que se fije una fianza de $5,000 y ahora le pregunta al fiscal, el señor Paul. Si quiere
State submits.
de la juez.
Mr. Mosley.
Your Honor, in light of the fact that he has two holds, we're asking for a bond on this case of $500.
I am going to impose a, go ahead.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Thank you. Su señoría, y en vista dice su abogado de que tiene dos órdenes de retención que fije una fianza de $500.
I am going to impose a bond in this case of $5,000, cash or secured.
Voy a imponer en este caso una fianza de $5,000 que sea
No.
Se va a liberar previos, tiene que seguir todas las impuestos y todos el monitoreo y tratamientos que ellos recomienden. No puede ser ninguna de fuego, ningún tipo de arma, no puede consumir alcohol ni drogas.
Your next date is going to be February 18th at 1:30. That's preliminary hearing.
La próxima fecha va a ser el 18 de febrero a la 1:30. Va a ser una audiencia preliminar.
That date may not occur. It's going to be important that you contact with your attorney in the event that the date changes.
Y que esa fecha se lleve a cabo, entonces es muy importante que usted se mantenga en comunicación con su abogado en caso de que cambie esa fecha.
The Public Defender's Office has been appointed to represent you, so someone will be contacting you about this case.
Y a usted se le ha asignado la Oficina de Defensoría Pública para que lo represente, entonces alguien de esa oficina se va a comunicar y contactarlo a usted con respecto a este caso.
If you remain in custody, the jail will make sure that you appear via video or get transported for future hearings. But if you post bond, you must appear at the court date and time that I gave you.
Y si usted permanece en prisión, en la cárcel, en la cárcel se van a encargar de que usted comparezca ya sea por video o que lo transporten a la audiencia para las futuras audiencias. Pero si usted llega a pagar fianza, es su responsabilidad comparecer en las fechas que yo le di de corte.
If you fail to appear, a warrant could be issued for your arrest.
Y si usted no comparece a la corte, puede emitirse una orden de arresto en su contra.
Do you understand all of your conditions of release, sir?
¿Usted entiende cuáles son todas sus condiciones de liberación, señor?
Sí, entiendo.
Yes, I understand.
And do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear?
Y comprende cuáles son las consecuencias que enfrenta si no comparece.
Sí, nomás una pregunta.
Yes, I asked one question.
¿La fianza la tendría que pagar toda entera, los 5,000, o cómo sería?
Do I have to post the full amount of the bond, the 5,000, or how would that be?
It's a cash or secured bond, so you can post a portion of it if you have collateral to pay the rest.
Es una fianza en efectivo o con garantía, entonces usted tendría que pagar una porción de esa fianza y si tiene un colateral para pagar el resto.
But I will tell you, sir. Sorry, but hang
I
on.
asked
No, let me finish. Because you have a probation hold and also a hold through immigration and customs, even if you post this $5,000 bond, you are not going to get out of custody.
Y déjeme terminar porque como usted tiene una orden de retención por el Departamento de Libertad Condicional y también una orden de retención por el Departamento de Inmigración ICE, aún si usted paga esa fianza de $5,000, va a permanecer bajo custodia.
You should talk to someone from the Public Defender's Office.
Y debe hablar de esto con alguien de la Defensoría Pública.
Ok, porque por ejemplo, mira, yo estoy casado con una mujer de aquí, era residente, pero ahora cuando pasó mi primer problema me quitaron la residencia. Me dijeron que cuando
So, well, because for example, I was married with a person here, so I had I was resident, and now that I had this first problem, they took away my residency.
I don't have any jurisdiction to handle anything relating to your status here, sir. That's going to have to be something you'll talk to someone through the federal government in the future. Today, we're only talking about your prohibited possessor charge.
Y yo no tengo jurisdicción con nada relacionado a su estatus legal, migratorio. Para eso tiene usted que hablar con alguien del gobierno federal en el futuro. Por ahora estamos solo hablando de su cargo en el que no tenía derecho a poseer un arma de fuego.
All right, you're all done for today, sir.
So, ya se terminó todo por hoy.
Entonces, ok, tengo que averiguar esto de la fianza, ¿no? Ok,
So,
gracias.
About this, the bond, right? Thank you.
No, es bien. Ahí está. Cosa.
Hi, tell me your full name.
¿Me dice su nombre completo?
Makeup. I have a sandwich on my wait a minute. Carlos Mendoza.
Carlos Mendoza.
Mr. Mendoza, you are here today on a charge of aggravated DUI. It is a felony offense.
Y señor Mendoza, usted está el día de hoy por un cargo de conducir bajo los efectos de sustancias químicas, DUI, que es un delito grave.
You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney in this matter. I'm appointing the Public Defender's Office and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today, where we're going to talk about your conditions of release.
Y tiene derecho a permanecer en silencio. Cualquier cosa que diga puede ser usada en su contra. Yo voy a nombrar un abogado de la Oficina de Defensoría Pública para que lo represente. Para el propósito de la audiencia de hoy, tiene un abogado que está sentado al lado suyo y vamos a hablar de sus condiciones de liberación.
I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services. It tells me a little bit about you and the circumstances of the offense.
Y tuve la oportunidad de revisar el informe de los servicios previos al juicio, previos al juicio, y me informa un poco sobre usted y las circunstancias de este delito.
I've also had a chance to review the state's recommendation as to conditions of release, and they're asking for a $5,000 bond, Mr. Post. And when the interpreter's done, Mr. Poston.
Y también tuve la oportunidad de revisar las recomendaciones de la Fiscalía y ellos están recomendando una fianza de $5,000 y ahora puede responder el señor Postman de la Fiscalía.
Go ahead.
Six minutes on record.
Okay. Did you catch that, interpreter? I think he said that the state was submitting on the record.
Okay. Y dice el fiscal que deja consideración de la juez la decisión.
Mr. Mosley?
Your Honor, due to his lack of criminal history, we're asking for release to pretrial services in the alternative, a bond of no more than $1,100.
Bueno, dice, señoría, estamos pidiendo que por su falta de antecedentes penales que sea dejado en libertad bajo los servicios previos al juicio y en caso de no ser así que se fije una fianza de $1,100.
Mr. Mendoza, I'm showing an address for you in Phoenix, Arizona. Do you have an address here in Tucson?
Señor Mendoza, yo veo que hay una dirección suya de Phoenix, Arizona. ¿Tiene usted dirección aquí en Tucson?
No.
No.
All right. I am going to impose a bond today in the amount of $5,000 cash or secured.
Y voy a imponer el día de hoy una fianza por $5,000 que sea pagada en efectivo o con garantía.
If you do post that bond, you'll be released to pretrial services and you must abide by the following conditions of release. Participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. Because this is an alcohol offense, they will likely have you test.
Bueno, y si usted llega a pagar esa fianza, lo van a dejar en libertad bajo la supervisión de los servicios previos al juicio. Tienen que cumplir con sus condiciones y cumplir el monitoreo y tratamiento que le indiquen los servicios previos al juicio y también que muy probablemente como esto fue un delito relacionado con alcohol, va a tener que hacerse pruebas.
You are not allowed to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs, and you cannot drive without a valid license.
Y usted no se le permite poseer ni consumir nada de alcohol ni drogas ilegales y no puede conducir sin una licencia válida.
Your next hearing in this case is a preliminary hearing on February 18th at 1:30 in the afternoon.
Su próxima audiencia sobre este caso va a ser el 18 de febrero a la 1:30 de la tarde. Va a ser una audiencia preliminar.
You are expected to show up at all future court dates, and if you fail to appear, a warrant could issue for your arrest.
Y usted espera que se presente y se comparezca a todas sus futuras fechas de corte, y si usted no comparece, se va a emitir una orden de arresto en su contra.
That preliminary hearing date may or may not occur, so it's going to be very important that you stay in contact with your attorney about any potential date changes, especially if you post the bond and get released.
Esa fecha preliminar puede que sea en esa fecha o no, por eso es importante que usted esté en comunicación con su abogado, porque si hay la posible pueda llegar a cambiarse esa fecha, especialmente si usted paga su fianza.
Do you understand the conditions of release that I've imposed here today?
¿Comprende usted cuáles son las condiciones de liberación que le he impuesto el día de hoy?
And do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear for your hearing?
¿Y comprende cuáles son las consecuencias si usted no se presenta o no comparece a la audiencia?
Sí.
Yes.
So, because you live in Phoenix, sir, I will permit, obviously, that travel and for you to reside outside of Pima County, but you're going to have to make sure that you get to court hearings and stay in contact with pretrial services and your attorney. Do you understand all of that?
Y señor, como usted, su vivienda es en Phoenix, voy a permitir que usted pueda viajar y residir fuera del condado de Pima, pero usted tiene que asegurarse de estar presente en todas las audiencias y las fechas de corte y mantener su comunicación con los servicios previos al juicio y con su abogado. ¿Eso lo comprende?
Sí.
Yes. You're all done for today.
Ya terminamos por hoy.
And jail, are we all done with our Spanish speakers?
Correct, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Have a great day.
Thank you, Your Honor. You too. Interpreter will now disconnect.
So guys, down, stay on board. What's
Hi,
yours?
sir.
Oh, smooth.
Tell me your name.
Andrew Houston Coe, also known as Andy Coe.
Mr. Coe, you are here today on possession of a dangerous drug charge. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney in this matter. I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you. I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services. Based on the nature of this charge, sir, you may be eligible to participate in a pre-indictment diversion program. If you agree to participate in substance abuse treatment for a period of time and stay in contact with pretrial services, then the state may not go forward with these felony charges. Would you like to see if you're eligible to participate in this program?
I would like to, Your Honor.
Okay. So with that, I am inclined to release him to pretrial services. Does either counsel need to be heard?
No, Your Honor.
All right. So, Mr. Coe, I'm going to release you to the custody of pretrial services today. You're going to have a hearing next week, February 12th at 9 a.m. You need to go to that hearing. Mr. Mosley is writing down the information for you. It'll be on the third floor of Superior Court, and you're going to see Judge Hampson. In the courtroom, you'll meet people from pretrial services. You'll meet your attorney. You also will have an opportunity to get connected to our community service providers that provide treatment. If you are eligible to participate in this program and you sign up, then you'll get all the information on that day. It's really an important date for you to appear. You are not allowed to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs. You can't have any firearms while this case is going on, and you have to participate in any monitoring or treatment pretrial services directs. Do you understand all of those conditions of release?
Yes, Your Honor.
And are we willing to waive time for the preliminary hearing, Mr. Mosley?
Yes, Your Honor.
So, Mr. Coe, normally the state would have 20 days to file an indictment, but because you may be eligible to participate in this program, we're going to extend that time out to 45 days. So what your attorney and I just talked about was extending that time. So your next hearing, again, you must go next week to see if you're eligible. That's the important date. The next hearing after that is March 24th at 1:30. That's a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not happen, especially if you participate in the diversion program. So it's important that you stay in contact with your attorney in case dates change. If you fail to appear for your court dates, a warrant could issue for your arrest. Do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear?
Oh, yes, I do, Your Honor.
All right, you are all done for today, Mr. Coe.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
Make sure you do. Yeah, I might be the what I'm saying, you're smart liar. You're some smart, okay.
Yes, sir. Tell me your full name.
My name is Ryan Philip Dawson.
Mr. Dutton, you're here on a couple different matters today. One of them is a fugitive matter out of Los Angeles. We're going to talk about that. And then you also have a local drug paraphernalia charge out of Tucson City Court that we're going to talk about as well. You do have the right to remain silent on all of these charges. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I am going to appoint the Legal Defender's Office to represent you. That will be the Pima County Legal Defender's Office on your fugitive matter. I've had an opportunity to review information that pretrial services has prepared for me on your case. I've also had a chance to review the state's recommendation. Mr. Poston, you requested a no bond, but there's a bond on the warrant that I'm inclined to impose. Is there a reason?
Very well, Your Honor. It was a misunderstanding. Very well. With the bond amount on the warrant, it's fine, Your Honor.
Your Honor, he was out on release. He bonded out on that warrant and hasn't missed any court dates, but he keeps getting picked up whenever he has officer contact because the warrant's still in the system. But in reality, he's bonded out on that and hasn't missed court.
So it looks like you were released on the $1,000 bond on January 19th.
Court on the 21st, and I went to court on the 21st. And then I have another court date on February 18th for the same thing. And I've actually been, they sent me a letter of release, able to go to Los Angeles to quash it myself. And I've been doing everything that the court has asked. And it was just there was a misunderstanding picking me up on it because the system shows that it's still a warrant, even though I had paperwork to show, but they couldn't verify the paperwork because of the time of day.
Mr. Dawson, who is your attorney from the Legal Defender's Office that's helping you with that?
You know what? I don't know what his name is. I have it on my paperwork. It's out of court 802 in the Superior Court.
Yeah. Okay.
And they can verify all that information. I keep a piece of paper with me that they're supposed to call, but they couldn't get that information. So.
Okay. So, and I did see that in the pretrial services report. So I did want to get some further information from you on that. And I do see that your next hearing on that case is February 18th.
Yes, ma'am.
And did you post the $1,000 bond?
I did.
Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do today, so it doesn't hopefully show up for multiple bonds for you, I'm going to release you today on your promise to appear. And in my notes, what I'm going to do is affirm the previous bond for $1,000 that was posted. So I'm going to put that on your paperwork today. I don't know if keeping this paperwork with you is going to have any effect whatsoever, but I'll at least make the note, and hopefully you won't have any more law enforcement contact before your hearing on the 18th. But I will indicate, I'll indicate all of this information that was provided by pretrial in the note section for your conditions of release. When you get released later today, that information will all be in there for you.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, and then Madi, I'm going to change the date for his fugitive warrant to the 18th. I don't know if that's going to screw anyone up, but, and I'm just talking to our clerk here at Justice Court because they had a fugitive date for you of February 10th, but since we already have one for the 18th, I'm just going to affirm that February 18th date for you at 2:30.
Thank you.
All right, and then does either counsel wish to be heard based on all of that information on the warrant matter?
No, Your Honor.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay, now we do need to deal with your drug paraphernalia charge. So let's talk about that one out of Tucson City Court. Again, you do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I'm going to release you on your promise to appear on that matter out of Tucson City Court. Your next hearing date for your Tucson City Court case is going to be March 5th at 9 a.m. and that's going to be in front of Judge Hale on that date. You do need to appear at Tucson City Court at that date and time. If you fail to appear, they could issue a warrant for your arrest. This is also the time for your arraignment on these charges. So I need to tell you that you are presumed innocent on that charge. I'm entering a not guilty plea on your behalf today. In addition to the warrant issuing for your arrest, if you don't show up on March 5th, that hearing and subsequently set hearings could also go forward in your absence, and that would include a trial. If you're convicted at trial and can't be sentenced within 90 days of that conviction, you could also lose your right to a direct appeal. Do you understand all those consequences for failing to appear, Mr. Dawson?
Yes, I do, Your Honor. Yes, I do.
You are all done for today. Make sure you grab your paperwork when you leave the jail today, okay?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hi, tell me your name.
Jeffrey Deloach.
Mr. Deloach, you were here on a few different matters today. The first is a felony charges involving kidnapping and aggravated assault. These are domestic violence related. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can or will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney in this matter. I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you do have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. Also looks like we have some DV charges and city court matters that we need to talk about. We're going to handle your felony cases first. I've had the opportunity to review. Sir, I need you to listen to me and you can talk to your attorney in just a second, okay? I'll give you an opportunity to do that, but I need to make sure you hear everything that I tell you today, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
So I've had a chance to review information provided by pretrial services today. It tells me a little bit about you and the circumstances of this offense. I've also had a chance to review the state's attorney's recommendation as to your conditions of release. Mr. Poston, you're recommending a $75,000 bond. Is there anything that you wanted to add?
Your Honor. We're looking at a 6 and 5 on NVCA. There's strangulation. State submits on the written record.
And I will add that the Tucson City Court matters we're going to talk about here in a minute. There are new charges as well as warrants that were issued for failing to appear for hearings. Mr. Mosley, did you want to be heard?
Your Honor, we're asking for a bond of no more than $5,500 on this matter.
I am going to impose a bond in this case of $25,000. That is going to be a cash or secured bond. If you post that bond, sir, then you'll be released to pretrial services on the felony matter. If you do get released to pretrial services, you're ordered to participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. You are not to commit any acts of domestic violence. You cannot possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs, and you can't have any firearms while this case is going on. You are also not to have any contact with the victim in this case. Do not return to the incident location or anywhere where the victim is living or working. While you are in custody, this order of no contact with her remains in effect. You may be given access to tablets, phone calls, other things. You are not to have any contact with the victim. If you need time to talk to your attorney, you can do that now.
You have to find out. You can call your attorney. You can file a motion to say it's better conditions of relations. It's fine. If you come on the because it's a class 2 felony. It's long as the incentives are up and dead and everything. Wow, that's not your assigned attorney. I already asked her 5,000, and she said that she had it in the middle. And like, you know, he wanted 75, he asked for dollars. He said 45,000, but you wanted 75,000 off of something and they just put together. They just put that place together. You're gonna have to talk to your attorney.
All done, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Do you understand all the conditions of release that I've just imposed, sir?
No, ma'am.
You don't understand them?
No, ma'am.
What don't you understand? I'm not asking if you like them. I'm asking if you understand them, what they mean, what the words mean. What don't you understand?
Nothing.
Okay, sounds like you're just being difficult. I know that you just had I heard that you just had a conversation with Mr. Mosley, so you had an opportunity to talk with him. And I believe that you do understand, you just don't like it. So we're going to note that there is the difference in that today, unless you have a specific question about your conditions. What is it?
The cop, where did I get a felony charge? He put me in the police car for 4 hours and put a charge on me. What are you talking about? I've been go to work every day.
I've told you what the charges are, and I've told you what your conditions of release are. Your next hearing in this case is February 18th at 1:30. That is a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, but you are expected to show up at all future dates, and if you fail to appear, a warrant could issue for your arrest. Do you understand the consequences for failing to appear, that a warrant could issue for your arrest?
Yes, ma'am.
If you are still in custody, the jail will make sure that you appear for your next hearings either via video or in person. If you postpone and get released, it's your responsibility to make sure that you appear for future court dates. We need to talk about your city court matters now.
Can I ask you a question first, please?
Yes.
I've been in prison for a long time, so when they go to file for the indictment, can I challenge the indictment? Because the cop just put the charges on me tonight. He made it up.
You can talk to your attorney from the public defender's office about all of those concerns that you have.
So we're going to trial then.
We're a ways away from that. We still have to look for.
I'm letting you know right now. That's where we're going.
Okay. Well, the state's attorney is present, so
Okay.
you provided the information. Okay. We need to talk about your city court cases first. You're here for unlawful imprisonment, disorderly conduct, 2 counts. Those are domestic violence offenses where you have warrants out for your arrest. Then you have additional charges relating to threats and intimidation, domestic violence, criminal damage, domestic violence, and disorderly conduct, domestic violence. And as I indicated, the warrant was issued out of Tucson City Court for failing to appear. On that case, I am going to impose a bond of $2,500 cash. If you post that bond and get released, you're to commit no acts of domestic violence. Again, don't have any contact with the victims in your city court cases and do not go to where they're living or working. I am going to appoint the city public defender's office to represent you on those city court cases. Your next hearing in city court is going to be February 12th at 1:30 in front of Judge Millian. That's a video review. If you're still in custody, you'll appear via video, much like you're doing here today. If you post that bond on your felony case and this one, then you'll need to be seen on March 7th of 2025 at 9 a.m. also in front of Judge Millian.
So I got to give you $25,000 cash to bond out on the first one?
Cash or secured?
The $25,000 bond is cash or secured. This case is $2,500 cash. So they are separate bonds that you'll have to post on these matters if you want to be released.
Yes, ma'am.
And then again, sir, if you do post your bond and you fail to appear, they can issue more warrants for your arrest. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you are all done for today.
So what I need to get out? 25,000. Cash or secured? What is secured? What the fuck is that? It's freaking. Your percentage, like 10% in a car or something for the rest.
Yeah. I need to use. I need to talk. I need to use the phone. I need to get my lawyers to
Use the phone.
They won't let me. I don't know. But
Well, you can use the jail phone.
You can't put me in the police car for 4 hours and call it detective for the charges.
Not your lawyers.
Right, the marks.
Hi, tell me your name.
Fred DeMars.
Mr. DeMars, you were here today on charges of aggravated assault, deadly weapon, a couple counts. One of them is domestic violence related. You do have the right to remain silent on these felony charges. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney in this matter. I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. We're here to talk about your release conditions. I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services in this case. I've also had the opportunity to review the state's recommendation. They are asking for a $15,000 bond today. Mr. Poston, did you want to be heard?
State submits, Your Honor.
I will note that pretrial services did indicate that one of the victims, Miss Cunning, did indicate that she would like further contact with you. I'll tell you, Mr. Mosley, I'll let you be heard, but I'm going to enter a no contact order today so that the two of them are not going to have contact. Would you like to be heard on conditions?
Yes, Your Honor. We're asking the court to consider pretrial services release for a bond of no more than $1,100. The pretrial service workup indicates he has no prior felonies, no prior misdemeanor, no prior DV.
Mr. DeMars, I am going to impose a bond today of $7,500. That's going to be a cash or secured bond. If you do post that bond, then you'll be released to pretrial services. If you get released to pretrial, you need to participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. You can't commit any acts of domestic violence. You're not allowed to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs, and you are not to have any firearms while this case is going on. If you still have other guns and you get released, you need to surrender those to law enforcement. You are not allowed to have contact with the victims in this case. Do not go to where they're living or working. Go ahead.
Because before I showed up here, she tried contacting me when I showed
Okay,
up.
hang on. Mr. DeMars, that's not information you want to be talking about here today. Today, we're talking about your conditions of release. Someone from the public defender's office will be in contact with you and you can talk with them about the circumstances of this offense and whatever other information you'd like to share with them, okay? So it's cash or secured, so you have to post, means that you have to come up with a portion of the 7,500 and then the rest of it, the secured portion is you have to have something, some collateral that you can post for the remaining balance. Sometimes bond companies will help out with that, but you're going to have to arrange for that. So the total amount would be $7,500. Again, portion of cash by you, the rest has to be secured with some kind of property.
So it has to be secured. It can't all be cash.
It can be all cash, yes, it can.
You can pay,
Okay.
you can pay all cash if you want. That's why it's cash or secured. Your next court date in this matter is going to be February 18th at 1:30 in the afternoon. That's a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, but you are expected to show up at all future court dates. And if you fail to appear, they could issue a warrant for your arrest. If you're in custody, the jail will make sure you're transported to your next hearing, or you'll appear via video, much like you're doing here today. But if you bond out, it's important to stay in contact with your attorney in case the dates change. Do you understand all the conditions of release I've imposed today?
Yes.
And do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear for your hearings?
Yes.
You're all done for today, Mr. DeMars.
I'm just gonna make a phone call or try to get. Ready?
Hi, tell me your name.
Matthew Lee Doherty.
Mr. Doherty, you are here today on a charge of aggravated domestic violence. It is a felony offense. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney in this matter. Today, I'm appointing the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. I don't know if anyone else got something from pretrial services, but I did not see a report from pretrial on this. State defense, do either of you have that report?
I do have.
Sorry, the sound glitched. Which individual are we dealing with?
And Doherty.
I have the interim complaint, Your Honor.
Did you get anything from pretrial?
I do not believe so, Your Honor. Let me check their website because it was a bit.
It's showing up now. So let me just take a second so I can review that. All right, I have had an opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services. Mr. Doherty, that tells me a little bit about you, your circumstances, your history, and the nature of the offenses. The state in this case is asking for a $50,000 bond. Mr. Poston, did you want to be heard further?
Your Honor, the state just notes multiple DV incidents with the same victim and others without.
Mr. Mosley?
Your Honor, looking at the pretrial services information, it appears that he's serving 134-day sanction determination starting on October 10th. So he's currently serving something. In light of that, we would ask for a reasonable bond of no more than $5,000 at this time.
I am going to impose a bond of $20,000 today, cash or secured. If you're able to post that bond, sir, then you'll be released to pretrial services. If you do get released, you have to participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. You're not to commit any acts of domestic violence. You may not possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs, and you cannot have any firearms while this case is going on. You are not to have any contact with the victim in this case. Do not go to where they're living or working. This order applies to you while you remain in custody. So while you are in the Pima County Jail, you may be given access to phones, tablets, ways to communicate. You are not to have any communication. Do you understand?
Correct.
Mr. Doherty,
Not present.
do you understand all those conditions of release?
Yes, Ron.
All right, your next court date is going to be a preliminary hearing on February 18th at 1:30. That hearing may or may not occur, but you will be expected to show up at all future court dates. If you fail to appear at court dates, a warrant could issue for your arrest. If you post bond and get released, it's important that you stay in contact with your attorney so you don't miss any court dates. If they change, if you remain in custody, the jail will make sure to transport you for future hearings, or you'll appear via video, much like you're doing here today. Do you understand the consequences for failing to appear?
Yes, Ron.
All right, you're all done for today.
Let's see. I'm thinking I'm pretty. But from October 10th. See. There you go.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Espinosa. That reps. Comes out.
Hi, sir. Tell me your name.
Espinosa.
What's your first name?
Dion.
Mr. Espinosa, you're here today on charges of possession of a dangerous drug and possession of drug paraphernalia. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney on these felony matters. I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services in this case. They've told me that you may be eligible, and based on the nature of the charges, you could be eligible to participate in a pre-indictment diversion program. If you agree to participate in substance abuse treatment and stay in contact with pretrial services, then the state may not go forward with these felony charges. Would you like to see if you're eligible to participate in that program?
So the program should complete the charges of the case is dismissed at those warnings. If you said yes or no.
I'll see if I'm eligible.
Yes, he would like to see if he's eligible, Your Honor.
Okay. In light of that, I'm going to release him to pretrial. Does either counsel need to be heard further on that?
No, Your
No,
Honor.
Your Honor.
All right. So, Mr. Espinosa, I'm going to release you today to the custody of pretrial services. What that means is that you must stay in contact with that agency. You have to participate in any monitoring or treatment they recommend. You are not allowed to have any alcohol or illegal drugs, and you can't have any firearms while this case is going on. Do you understand all of those conditions? I need an out loud answer.
He did answer yes, Your Honor.
Okay, I didn't catch that. So your next hearing is going to be February 12th at 9 a.m. That's going to be in Pima County Superior Court on the 3rd floor in front of Judge Hampson. That is the date for your hearing to see if you're eligible to participate in this pre-indictment diversion program. An attorney will be there, pretrial services will be there, and also treatment providers from our community. So if you're eligible to participate, you can take care of signing up and doing everything on that day. You do need to appear for that hearing if you're going to participate. The hearing after that, are we willing to waive time, Mr. Mosley?
Willing to waive both time with the preliminary hearing so you can get evaluated.
Um, what exactly does that mean?
So normally the state has 20 days to give you to get an indictment. But since you may be eligible and the state wouldn't go forward, we're going to extend that out to 45 days if you want to participate in the program. So
Okay,
Yes or no?
yeah,
okay, so your next court date, the court date next week is the one you need to make sure you show up for, February 12th at 9. Your next hearing after that is March 24th at 1:30. That's a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, so make sure you stay in touch with your attorney. If you do fail to appear at any court dates, they could issue a warrant for your arrest. Do you understand?
yeah.
All right, you're all done for today.
Superior Court is 13 for room 306 on the 12th. If he is active, that's for smart, the smart court. Don't go, they're gonna take away that opportunity. So you gotta be there.
Yeah. What's today?
It's the 5th. Alright, we're good. But court.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. Sir,
Hello.
hello.
Hi, tell me your full name.
James Dean Freeoff.
Mr. Freoff, you are here today on charges of possession of drug paraphernalia and possession of a dangerous drug. These are felony charges. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney in this matter. I am going to appoint the legal defender's office for you today. You do have an attorney from the public defender's office seated with you for purposes of the discussion about your conditions of release, which is what we're here to do at this initial appearance today. I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services. Tells me a little bit about you and the circumstances of this offense. I've also had an opportunity to review information from the state's attorney. Looks like they are recommending release to pretrial services. Based on the nature of these charges, Mr. Freeoff, you may be eligible to participate in a substance abuse treatment program. If you agree to do substance abuse treatment and stay in contact with pretrial services, then the state may not go forward with these felony charges. Is that something you'd like to participate in?
Yes, I would.
Okay, so I am inclined to release to pretrial services. Either counsel want to be heard?
No, Your Honor.
All right.
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Freeoff, you'll be released to pretrial services today. You must stay in contact with that agency. You're gonna have to participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. You can't possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs, and you can't have any firearms while this case is going on. It does look like you have a pending Maricopa County case, so whatever's going on up there, make sure you stay in contact with your attorney and take care of those matters as well, okay?
Okay, I will, Your Honor.
Your next hearing on this case is going to be February 12th. That's next week at 9 a.m. It'll be on the 3rd Pima County Superior Court. You're going to see Judge Hampson. That day, at that time, when you go to that courtroom, you're going to meet with your attorney about the terms of this program. Pretrial services will be there, so you'll have a chance to meet members of the team there. You'll also have an opportunity to meet with substance abuse treatment providers that will be in attendance as well. If you want to participate, you may be signing up with those folks at that date and time. Be willing to waive time for the preliminary hearing? So Mr. Free.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So basically, we're just giving the state more time to obtain an indictment. That's a benefit to you to see if you're eligible for this program. So instead of 20 days, we're going to extend your preliminary hearing out by 45 days. And I'm understanding that you're okay with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So your next hearing after the one next week is going to be March 24th at 1:30. That's the preliminary hearing, and that date may or may not occur, especially if you're participating in the pre-indictment diversion program. It's important that you stay in contact with your attorney, and if you fail to appear for any future hearings on this case, they could issue a warrant for your arrest. First, do you understand all the conditions of release that I've imposed here today?
Yes, I do.
And do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear for your hearings in the future?
I'm very aware of the consequences.
You're all done for today.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, tell me your name.
Brandon Michael Hall.
And jail, I'm showing, is there anything other? Yes. Does he have probation hold? Okay. Jail, are you noting the probation hold?
Correct, Your Honor.
All right. So, Mr. Hall, you're here on a few different matters today. The first are charges relating to possession of a narcotic drug and drug paraphernalia. You also have a warrant out of Pima County Justice Court for theft and criminal trespass with a failure to appear. And you have city court matters as well. It looks like a shoplifting case, which is also a warrant, and you failed to appear for your hearing. You do have the right to remain silent on all of these cases. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney on your felony matter, and I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. I have had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services. In light of the APO hold, I am inclined to impose a bond in this case, counsel, of $1,000 cash or secured. Do either of you want to be heard?
No, Your Honor.
All right. So, Mr. Hall, because of your probation matter, you're going to remain in custody. So on this case, your new charges, I'm going to impose a bond of $1,000. That's cash or secured. If you get your probation matter resolved, then you'd have to post the bond on this case. If you do post the bond, you'll be released to pretrial services. You have to participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. You can't have any alcohol or drugs, and you can't have any firearms or weapons. Do you understand all those conditions of release?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may be eligible to participate in a pre-indictment diversion program for these drug charges. If you agree to substance abuse treatment and you're eligible for this program, then the state may not go forward with these two felony charges. Is that something you'd like to see if you're eligible to participate in?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. With that, I'm going to schedule a court date for you next week. It's going to be February 12th at 9 a.m. If you're still in custody, and you likely will be, the jail will transport you to Pima County Superior Court on that date and time, and you'll see Judge Hampson. If for some reason you get released, you need to make sure that you appear at that date and time. At that hearing, you'll be able to meet with your attorney. Pretrial services officers will be there, as well as substance abuse treatment providers from our community, and you'll get more information about the program. The next hearing on your felony cases after that is going to be February 18th at 1:30. That's a preliminary hearing. That hearing may or may not occur, so it's important that you stay in contact with your attorney so that you know when you need to appear. If you fail to appear at any court hearings, they could issue a warrant for your arrest. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. For your misdemeanor theft case, I'm going to release you on that one.
Okay.
Your next hearing on that case is going to be February 25th at 10 o'clock in the morning at Pima County Justice Court. If you're still in custody for whatever reason on that date, they'll have you appear via video like you're doing today. But again, if you get your other matters resolved and you get released, make sure you show up on that date or they can issue a warrant for your arrest. For that case, wherever the theft occurred, don't go back to the incident location or have any contact with the people there. They're the victims. Do you understand the conditions of release for your misdemeanor matter?
Yes, Your Honor.
And do you understand, again, the consequences for failing to appear?
Yes, Your Honor.
Right, one more warrant that we need to talk about, and that's going to be your city court warrant. And I am going to release you on that one as well and give you an opportunity to appear on that one. Your next hearing for your Tucson City Court case is going to be March 6th at 2 p.m. Because it is a shoplifting case, you are not to return to the incident location. That's where the victims are. You can't have any contact with them. Do you understand those conditions?
Yes, Your Honor.
You'll see Judge Hale on March 6th at 2. Again, if you get released, then you will need to make sure you appear at that date and time. And if you fail to appear, they'll issue a warrant for your arrest. Understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, you're all done for today.
Thank you. Christopher Looper. Thank you.
Hi, sir. Tell me your name.
Christopher Looper.
Mr. Looper, you are here today on charges of shoplifting. Looks like it is a class 5 felony. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney on this matter. I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. I've had an opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services on this matter. I've also had a chance to review the state's attorney's recommendation. They're recommending $5,000 on this case. Mr. Poston, did you want to be heard further?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Mosley?
Your Honor, we're asking the court to release him to the supervision of pretrial services. He has no prior felony history. He has a stable residence with family and part-time employment available.
Sure, I show an address for you on North Fragile Clay in Miranda. Is that a good address for you?
Yes, Your Honor.
If I release you on this case to pretrial services, you are not allowed to return to the incident location where the shoplifting occurred. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
I am going to release you to pretrial services today. You are ordered to participate in any monitoring or treatment that they recommend. Stay in contact with that agency. You're not allowed to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs, and you can't have any firearms while this case is going on. Again, do not return to the incident location or have any contact with the people there. They are the victims. Your next court date is going to be February 25th at 1:30. That's a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, but you will be responsible for showing up at all future court dates. And if you fail to appear, a warrant could issue for your arrest. It's very important that you stay in contact with your attorney in the event that dates change. Do you understand all the conditions of release that I've imposed?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear?
Yes, ma'am.
You're all done for today.
Thank you.
Arlene Martinez, stand by your shirt, ma'am.
Hi, tell me your name.
Arlene G. Martinez.
Ms. Martinez, you are here today on a charge of theft of means of transportation. This is the time for your initial appearance. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney in this matter. Today, I'm appointing the legal defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. We're going to discuss your conditions of release. I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services on this matter. I've also had a chance to review the state's recommendation as to your conditions of release. They're asking for a $5,000 bond. Mr. Poston, did you want to be heard further?
Your Honor.
Mr. Mosley?
Your Honor, we're asking the court to consider release to pretrial services in the alternative, a bond of no more than $1,100.
I am going to impose a bond in this matter of $5,000. It is going to be a cash or secured bond. If you post that bond, then you're going to be released to pretrial services. You're going to have to participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. You can't have any alcohol or illegal drugs and no firearms. You're not allowed to have any contact with the victim in this case or return to the incident location. Do you understand all those conditions of release, Ms. Martinez?
Yes.
Yes.
Your next court date is going to be February 18th at 1:30. That's going to be a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, but you're expected to show up at all future court dates. And if you fail to appear, a warrant could issue for your arrest. If you postpone and get released, it's important that you stay in contact with your attorney so you know about any future court date changes. Do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear for your court hearing?
Yes.
All right, you're all done for today.
Rivera.
Hi, tell me your name.
Gabriel Rivera.
Mr. Rivera, you're here today on charges of theft of means of transportation, burglary in the 3rd degree, possession of burglary tools, and possession of drug paraphernalia. You do have the right to remain silent on these charges. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney. Today, I'm appointing the Public Defender's Office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. I've had an opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services, tells me a little bit about you and the circumstances of this offense. I've also had the chance to review information provided by the state. The state's attorney is asking for a $5,000 bond on this matter. Mr. Poston, did you want to be heard further?
No, Judge. Other than he's an NVCA, yes, and 6 and a 5.
I did note that. Thank you. Mr. Mosley?
Your Honor, asking the court to consider release to pretrial services or any alternative, a bond of no more than $1,100.
Mr. Rivera, I am going to impose a bond today of $5,000. That's going to be a cash or secured bond. If you do post that bond, then you'll be released to pretrial services. If you get released to pretrial, your additional conditions are to participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. You're not allowed to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs, and you can't have any guns while this case is going on. You're not to have any contact with the victims in this case and do not return to the incident location. Do you understand all of those conditions of release?
Yes.
Your next court date is going to be February 18th at 1:30. That's a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, but you will be expected to show up at all future court dates. And if you fail to appear, a warrant could issue for your arrest. It's important if you post bond that you stay in contact with your attorney in the event that court dates change. If you do remain in custody, the jail will make sure that you are transported or appear via video for your future hearings. Do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear?
Yes, ma'am.
You're all done for today. Hi, tell me your name.
Shawan Wheeler.
We're here today on charges of possession of a dangerous drug. It is a felony charge. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney in this matter. The Public Defender's Office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. Jail, I'm showing that she has a probation hold. Is that right?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay. So what that means, Ms. Wheeler, is regardless of what I do here today on your case, you're going to be held on your probation matter. And it looks like the 2022 4597, that must be the probation warrant. It is that I ended up issuing. Okay. All right. So based on the nature of this offense, the drug possession case, Ms. Wheeler, you may be eligible to participate in a pre-indictment diversion program, which means if you agree to participate in substance abuse treatment, complete the program, and stay in touch with pretrial services, if you qualify, and the state has to figure that out first, then they may not go forward with this felony charge against you. Is that something that you're interested in participating in?
Yes.
All right. So counsel, in light of the probation hold, I'm inclined to impose a bond of $1,000 cash or secure.
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
So ma'am, you're going to be held today on this new charge on a bond of $1,000 cash or secured. If you do post that bond and get your probation matters resolved, then you'll be released to pretrial services. You do get released, you have to participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. You can't have any alcohol or illegal drugs, and you can't have any firearms. Your next hearing is going to be next week. It's going to be February 12th at 9 a.m. That'll be in Pima County Superior Court on the 3rd floor with Judge Hampson. If you're still in custody, the jail will transport you to that hearing. At that hearing, you'll have an opportunity to meet with your attorney and review the terms of the pre-indictment diversion program. You'll meet pretrial services there that day and the contacts for that program. You'll also have an opportunity to meet with substance abuse treatment providers that will be in the courtroom so that they can get you set up. If you are eligible to participate, and you'll find out on that day, if you are eligible, then Judge Hampson will be able to review your conditions of release at that time as well. All right. Do you understand all of those conditions of release?
Yes.
All right. Your next hearing after that is going to be a preliminary hearing on February 18th at 1:30. That hearing may or may not occur, especially if you get enrolled in the pre-indictment diversion program. So it's important that you stay in contact with your attorney just in case the dates change. If you fail to appear for court hearings, there could be a warrant issued for your arrest. Do you understand the consequences for failing to appear?
Yes.
All right. You're all done for today, Miss Wheeler. All right, folks, I think that's it for today. Thank you all very much. We'll see you again tomorrow.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay.